For 12 long years, she lived quietly, away from the skies that once defined her life. To her neighbors and friends, she was just another face in the crowd, someone with an ordinary past and a simple future. But what no one around her knew was that she had once been part of something extraordinary. She had worn the Top Gun patch, stood among the best fighter pilots in the world, and carried secrets that she thought she would never have to face again. She had promised herself that her days in the cockpit were over, yet fate has a strange way of pulling people back into the very world they try to leave behind. Her story began when she was one of the youngest pilots ever selected for the elite Top Gun program. Pushing herself through grueling training and earning respect in an environment where mistakes were not forgiven, she flew faster, fought harder, and proved herself time and again. But something happened, something she never spoke about, that made her walk away at the height of her career. She disappeared from the radar, burying her past so deeply that even those closest to her had no idea who she truly was. For over a decade, she built a new life on the ground, far away from roaring engines and afterburners. But the silence couldn't last forever. When the military faced a crisis, unlike anything they had prepared for, her name resurfaced. No one else had the unique mix of instincts, experience, and courage to take on the mission. At first, she resisted. She had left that world behind for a reason. But when they called her back, this time it wasn't about pride or ambition. It was about survival. The cockpit she thought she had left behind was waiting for her again. Only now it was the seat of the F-22 Raptor, the most advanced fighter jet in the sky. As she placed her hands on the controls once more, memories flooded back. The question wasn't whether she could still fly, but whether she was ready to face the truth of why she had left. And this time, there would be no hiding. The moment she touched the controls, it was as if the years had melted away. Muscle memory returned, the feel of the aircraft responding to her every move, the sharp awareness of speed and sky that only a fighter pilot knows. Yet behind that familiarity was a weight she couldn't shake. She hadn't just left the Top Gun program because of burnout or pressure. There was something buried in her past, a secret mission that had ended in a way she had sworn never to relive. That memory was the real reason she stayed grounded for 12 years. Those who called her back didn't know the full story. To them, she was a decorated pilot, someone with unmatched skill who could handle the F-22 Raptor at a time when the military desperately needed a leader in the skies. They thought they were reviving a hero, but she knew the truth was more complicated. Every flight brought the risk of exposing the shadow she had been hiding, a truth that could change the way people saw her forever. Her old squadron still whispered about her disappearance. Some said she cracked under the pressure. Others believed she was injured, or worse. But no one had ever guessed the real reason she vanished. She let them believe what they wanted, because telling the truth meant admitting what happened during that final mission, a mission she had locked away in silence. Now, as the engines of the F-22 roared to life around her, she felt that past pressing closer with every second. This wasn't just about flying again. It was about facing everything she had tried to bury. The question was no longer whether she could outmaneuver the enemy in the skies. It was whether she could outfly the ghosts chasing her from the ground. The first time she walked back onto the airbase, the smell of jet fuel and the echo of engines instantly pulled her into the life she thought she had left behind. Younger pilots turned to look at her, some with curiosity, others with disbelief. To them, she was a name whispered in old training stories, a legend who vanished without explanation. Now she was back, standing in front of the very machines she had once mastered, preparing to climb into the most advanced fighter jet in the world, the F-22 Raptor. But beneath her calm exterior, her mind was restless. Memories of her Top Gun days played like flashes. Late-night briefings, endless dogfights, and the faces of teammates who trusted her with their lives. Some of those faces never made it home. That was the part she never spoke of, the part no one knew. The mission that changed everything was still locked inside her. A memory that carried guilt as heavy as her flight suit. The officers who pushed her into this return saw only her record. Fastest to complete training, sharpest in combat drills, a pilot whose instincts often outpaced even the most advanced systems. They believed putting her in the Raptor would give them an edge, but they didn't know the cost of dragging her back into the sky. As she strapped into the cockpit, her hands hesitated on the throttle. She remembered the promise she made to herself 12 years ago, that she would never fly again. And yet, here she was, about to break that promise. The question that haunted her wasn't just whether she still had the skill. It was what would happen when the past she buried finally collided with the present she could no longer avoid. The Raptor lifted off the runway with a roar that shook through her chest. The ground dropped away, and in an instant, she was back in her element, soaring higher and faster than she had in more than a decade. The cockpit wrapped around her like a second skin. Every switch and screen familiar yet sharper, more advanced. But the quiet of the sky gave her no peace. Every mile she climbed brought back the one mission she had spent years trying to forget. She had been younger then, still proving herself in Top Gun, when they sent her on a mission that tested more than skill. It wasn't just about flying. It was about choices, life or death decisions made in seconds that left scars no metal could erase. She had made the call, and though the mission had succeeded, it cost more than anyone had expected. That was the night she promised herself she would never fly again. And now, here she was, reliving it in the cockpit of the most advanced jet in the world. From the ground, her commanders watched with satisfaction as the Raptor cut through the sky. They believed they had brought back their secret weapon, a one pilot who could tip the balance, but they couldn't see what was happening inside the cockpit. The sweat on her palms, the way her heartbeat raced not from the speed, but from the memories chasing her. Then the call came over the radio. It wasn't training anymore. Unidentified aircraft had entered restricted airspace. She was the closest, the only one who could intercept. Her pulse spiked as she adjusted course, the horizon tilting as she pushed the jet faster. The moment she dreaded was no longer distant. It was here, and as the radar lit up with approaching signals, she knew she was flying straight into the past she had tried so hard to escape. Her eyes locked onto the radar screen as the blips grew closer, their paths converging on hers. At first, she thought, it was a simple intercept, unidentified aircraft testing the boundary. Nothing she hadn't faced before. But then the codes came through, scrambled signals she recognized instantly. It wasn't a foreign threat. It was something far more dangerous. These were the same call signs from the mission 12 years ago. The one she had buried deep. The one that ended in silence and shadows. For a moment she froze. How could it be possible? Those pilots were gone. That mission had been wiped from every report, sealed so tightly that even mentioning it was forbidden. Yet, here they were, appearing on her radar as if time had folded back on itself. She couldn't tell if it was a trick, a glitch in the system, or the truth resurfacing after all these years. But either way, it meant her past wasn't just haunting. Her memory, it was alive, and now flying directly into her path. Her commanders demanded answers over the radio, their voices sharp, ordering her to identify the threat. But she couldn't bring herself to speak. How could she explain what she was seeing? If she told them, she risked exposing everything she had fought to keep hidden. If she stayed silent, she risked losing control of the mission. The F-22 surged forward as she gripped the controls tighter. She knew what was coming. Confrontation, not just in the air, but inside herself. This wasn't just about intercepting enemy aircraft anymore. This was about facing ghosts that weren't supposed to exist. And as the distance closed, the stakes became painfully clear. What waited ahead wasn't only a test of her skill. It was the truth she had spent 12 years running from, finally catching up with her at supersonic speed. The blips on the radar closed in fast, and her breathing steadied into the calm rhythm she had trained for years ago. As the F-22 cut through the clouds, her eyes caught sight of the silhouettes ahead, sleek, dark shapes, moving with the precision she knew too well. In that instant, it became clear. These weren't strangers. They were flying the same formation she had once led. The same maneuvers only her old squadron would know. Someone had resurrected the tactics from her final Top Gun mission, using her own playbook against her. Her commanders barked orders through the headset, demanding action, but she blocked out the noise. This fight wasn't going to be won by brute force or advanced technology. It was going to be decided by instinct, the kind honed long before the F-22 ever existed. She rolled hard, pulling the Raptor into a steep climb, forcing the enemy to "I follow." The sky became a chessboard at supersonic speed, every move a test of nerve. For a moment, she felt like the pilot she once was, unstoppable, unshakable, alive. But then it happened. As 10